nutrients to their limits, making them produce buds so flavorful and potent that you'll wonder why you ever bothered with anything else. Now, what this is, when you go buy a bag soil, even if you're buying like a Build a Soil 3.0 or maybe even like big roots or something like that, that's like a $30+ bag. Even those, they're not even going to come close to how much. The difference of this is there's so much nutrient in there. It's really tough to imagine. You're almost packing as much in there as you can. And then you're giving all this food to these microorganisms. They're breaking it down over that time. And some of them are going to release slow. Some of them are going to release in the middle. Some of them are going to release at the end of your harvest. But it's all just designed in there to just perfectly just feed your plants all the way through with minimal effort without having to buy any other, chemistry set, any other nutrients, anything like that. So all you need is water. It's known for water only. Unlike most standard potting mixes, super soils remove the need for water-soluble nutrients and instead allow the grower to only regularly provide pH balanced water. So we've simplified this down to a point where all you have to do is my light too close? Is my humidity in the right spot? Is my temperature in the right spot? Do I have enough water or too little water? And so your primary focus is going to be, do I have too much water or too little water? If you talk to my girlfriend, Carissa, I oftentimes don't even let anybody water because I take it so seriously with that. So, I mean, that is really what you want to, be focused on with it. That's all you really need. You don't need to put anything more. It's packed with nutrients. Unlike other traditional potting mixes, super soils come with a higher amount of organic material, like we're talking about, along with other nutrients needed for natural cycles to occur. So basically, we're trying to make a full ecosystem where everything can function just like it does in nature. And so this blend is designed to include all the nutrients necessary to grow your plants through harvest with hydro-like growth and yield in less time. So we'll jump in. I'm just going to go through all these different amendments. What's in the recipe, just so you know. Obviously, when you have this, you don't need to learn anything or do anything. But this is why everything's in here. This is what everything does. So the first one's alfalfa, which is a vegetable. Alfalfa, we call it energizer. It's more than just rabbit food. It's loaded with nitrogen, kickstarting the microbial parties in the soil. So if you ever heard about composting, you need browns and greens. So we're loading it with those greens. This is a ton of nitrogen in here, and that's going to really feed a lot of these microbial populations. It's also rich in this triacontanol, and that's basically a growth hormone. So that's one of the main reasons we like to have alfalfa in there. You get your nitrogen, but you also have these growth hormones in there, and that's just going to help increase the growth of the plants. And the next one we've got is bone meal, the root whisperer. This one's packed with phosphorus. So phosphorus is what you want for fruiting, your flowering, but it's also what you want for root development. So it gets down to the root of things, literally. It's the secret handshake that says, welcome to the roots, let's grow. Plus it's a calcium hero providing or fortifying plant cell walls against invaders. So calcium is one of those things that you could almost call an NPK. It's almost a macronutrient. You need a ton of it to really, really push the levels of cannabis. Next, we've got neem seed meal. It's mostly nitrogen, just like the alfalfa, but neem seed meal, it really does a double duty. It nourishes your plants and it sends a pest packing. So I put it like having a bouncer at the door, keeping the riffraff out. So basically, the neem seal you can really smell in the mix at first when you're putting it in there, but it really just prevents a lot of different the negative nematodes that we don't want in there. Stay out. A lot of fungus gnats are going to stay out with this neem seed meal. So we put that in there for that reason. And then the high phosphorus guano, this is actually like what I've always called my secret sauce. I've never told anybody this ingredient ever. And this I actually get from Indonesia in the rainforest. And out there, all the fruit flies and all the insects and things like that, they're just feasting on all this amazing fruit out there. And the bats come and eat them, and they just make this guano that I've never tasted in any other guanos. And I've tried Mexican, I've tried the high phosphorus seabird guano, all that stuff. This to me just gives it that like buttery flavor. And the high phosphorus, again, that's going to be your fruiting and your flowering. So this is what's going to be developing a lot of your buds and a lot of that flavor. So I really like this stuff. This is the only stuff you can't get at the grocery stores too. So you can get it from me if you want. I order a lot of it. Otherwise, they're gonna try and stock it. Otherwise, you can get it on Amazon. So the high phosphorus, I really like that stuff a lot. Kelp meals and most soil mixes that you're gonna find. Kelp meal is an accumulator. So kelp is the seaweed in the ocean, and that's what we call an accumulator. It basically pulls all the nutrients out of the ocean, and that's how it grows. It's just accumulating stuff that comes by, brings a bit of the ocean magic to your soil. It's chock full of micronutrients, growth hormones. So just like that alfalfa with that tricontrol, this is going to have additional auxins and growth hormones in it. So we definitely like the kelp meal. I like to taper it down to kind of a minimum with the kelp meal because, as you'll see in this whole program, we use a lot of different microgreens and we use a lot of alfalfa. And so these things you're using your kelp meal to get all your micronutrients. So it's like your Centrum vitamin, you know, if we were to take that. So the kelp meal is going to give that, but because we use a lot of microgreens, we can cut down on our kelp meal. The problem with a lot of ocean products, whether they be fish meal, kelp meal, anything like that, uh, they tend to have higher metals in there. Just like you don't want to eat a ton of fish because you can start accumulating mercury or metals. You know, later on as we get into more commercial stuff, you know, you don't want to have too high of metals in your soil because that can actually transfer to flour. You know what I mean? And if you are growing commercially, that can be a problem. So I limit that and then I supplement it more with the microgreens. Blood meal. So these are byproducts of, you know, the animal waste industry. And you might hear some companies or organic, you know, companies talking trash on using bone meal or blood meal. But when we're doing regenerative gardening, to me, the whole purpose of doing this and learning regenerative is not only to grow a better product, but it's also to turn, you know, this waste into something useful. We're regenerating soil, we're regenerating waste. So I don't necessarily go and buy McDonald's burgers or anything like that, you know, and I don't necessarily support that personally, but you know, that waste is there and we have to turn it into something useful. You know what I mean? Hopefully, if we stop supporting them, you know, this will dry up and we'll have to, you know, figure something else out. But there's a plethora of it there. And I think it's very important to turn that stuff, even if they're saving money, it's still important to turn that stuff back into the soil because, you know, a big problem with what's going on right now with all these salts is that, you know, it's depleting the soil and these things aren't cycling. Okay. The cool part about nature is that, you know, when it starts cycling all these things and we have enough stuff to cycle it, basically, you know, once one thing grows, it actually perpetuates and it grows exponentially. That's why, you know, the Mayans could, you know, start their own gardens and now we've got a rainforest. You know what I mean? Because nobody was there to take care of it. But once you start the snowball, you know what I mean? It keeps going. So that's the whole purpose. We want to, you know, return this stuff back into the ground, break it down. Next, we've got our